we all certainly want our kids to be more successful than we have been in life. And, but what if your mom and dad is really, really famous? You think about Dale Earnhardt. Well, Junior did pretty well. Ken Griffey Jr.'s, he did very well. And, the Manning brothers did pretty well after Archie.
Yeah, I think so. But more often than not, kids of celebrities and athletes have a tough time forging perhaps their own path, especially if they go into the same field as their parents. So this morning we're talking about that as we see things like Bronny James, LeBron James is in the entering the NBA. Good morning.
What about that? What about that Klapow family? I mean, that whole Klapow family is following your footsteps, right?
Tony Kurre kids.
You know what? It's funny because my kid just got back from Clemson after a year, and he's taking communications and marketing. And I was like, I got someone that I know that could probably help you out in that. And I was like, anything you need, you let me know. But if you don't ask, I'm not going to help you.
My kids are
I got a lot of contacts. I can make some phone calls for you, but if you don't want to, he hasn't asked yet.
So that's a whole thing as well, and that's kind of what I was interested in this one. Is this is not so much the parent having, we always talk about parent having unrealistic expectations, but what do you do if you want to go into the same field as your parent and you're not as good?
Yeah. We've seen that happen.
Right,
Michael Jordan's son.
That's exactly, and your parents
Pete
are
Rose's son.
supportive.
Especially athletes, I think, is probably worse.
Oh, athletes, musicians,
Yeah.
actors, or even professionals. And I think one of the things that's really hard is if you are a caring parent and you're trying to send all those right support signals, particularly in athletics, you've got a kid who's going to be incredibly driven and sometimes unrealistically driven. I'm not necessarily saying that's the case for Bronny James, but you've got a lot of kids who are trying to pursue this maybe to meet what they think their parents' expectations are.
Well, it's interesting you say that. We had Domani Harris on earlier. He is T.I.'s son, and he's trying to make it in the field as a rapper. But he talked about how he has a good balance on that. Like, he's trying to create his own stuff, but his father's helping him. And I think that's probably where the balance needs to lie, right? You can't be that overbearing parent. And that doesn't matter. Whatever field you're in, right?
Oh, absolutely. But I think the challenge is, and you talked about it, and you wonder about LeBron James. I think about my kids. You want to help your child, right? And particularly if they're going in the same field, you're like, no, I support you, and I want you to do your own thing. But I mean, I got some connections. I got some.
You want to make those connections. I'm just telling you, as a father, I want to help my son.
And it does help.
Because it makes me feel good.
But they don't always want it.
Right, and that's the problem, and that's a challenge for kids a lot of times. Is they absolutely don't help me, don't help me, don't help me, and particularly as they get into their 20s, they're not thinking. They're thinking much more on the parent-child side than, oh yeah, my mom and dad's got tons of connections.
Yeah.
We were talking about medical school. Getting into medical school. And so it creates a lot of psychological distress in the family.
Yeah. It does. It does.
Of course, then you got kids that want a free job. I want to work after you. Please give me a gig. I want to take over the business when you retire, Dad.
Well, or the other thing that we were talking about, you see this in fraternities and sororities as well. So your legacies, again, LeBron James and Bronny. Let's say the Lakers do draft Bronny, right? And they bring him in. The first thing everyone's going to say, and this is where he and I disagreed, is, okay, well, you brought him in for LeBron James. Yes, everybody knows that. Do you play him?
Of course you play him? Sure.
Well, why? What if he's not good
Because
enough?
people came to see him play.
Yeah,
they're not to see him more.
You got to play the.
What sells seats? Is it going to sell seats to have Bronny and LeBron on the basketball court for the LA Lakers? Yes or no?
It'll kill your team from the inside out.
That's exactly.
And I said the same thing. Then why they pay? Then why they pay? Kobe $40 million this last year. He wasn't worth $40 million. They're paying him for the past, not the present, or even for the future. And that's what you're going to do with Bronny if you bring him in. But if LeBron James
lasts so long, if Bronny doesn't have the game to back it up.
Exactly. And think about what that does to Bronny James in the locker room, even if LeBron is like standing still.
He'll be blacklisted for the rest of his career as a guy that he can't get it done.
That's right.
But it's still going to happen.
Yeah.
Flagrant foul against Bronny like Caitlin Clark?
I don't know, but look, hey, Bronny, I think, look, he's working hard. Let's, get the guy the benefit of the doubt. Maybe, maybe he does make it. He's been working his tail off.
He is. I'd love to see them both on the field or on the basketball court at the same time.
That would be cool.
We're all
but you talk about kids, like I think about Pete Rose Jr. He played with the Birmingham Barons.
He did.
For 9 years.
Yes.
13 years he played in minor leagues and never made the majors.
Yeah.
Because his old man's the hit leader.
That's the final word.
That's pressure.